Okay, let me explain something. Hold, hear me out. Hold up. There's a couple of things you need to know about me. One is I enjoy quality sound. It's ironic because some of my equipment is not quality, but I do enjoy quality sound in my life and in my work as a background element and such. Another thing you have to understand is I enjoy coffee. There's a reason why coffee beans are the currency on this Twitch channel. And you know how quality headphones that go over the ear with oversized, comfortable pads tend to look a bit like bagels or donuts, oversized, but still round and fluffy and shaped like that. Yes, well, funny thing, along with a large bowl of coffee that I typically have, I usually have my headphones at the ready for times when I stream, such as this, because I use that as part of my setup, as well as to enjoy the jungle sounds and to enjoy the music and such. Oh, music. Well, Um, the um, the story goes like this. I dropped my headphones in my coffee, and well, I, I, I guess that's the end of the story. But the point is this: when you have plans B and C and D and E, all right, let's relate that to our work making this card game called Shuffle Wars. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. Well, our approach to design in general works off the principle that we don't always know exactly what we're supposed to do. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know exactly how things are going to unfold. We actually count on that in the design process. You see, the design process follows something like the scientific method. Let's take a really good guess or hypothesis as to what is going on and how we might proceed. In science, this is for knowledge. In design, this is to get stuff done, but to get it done in service of the user, in this case, the player, because we're doing game design. Best guess is there's a couple of views that are important for this card game, you battling against another player. One view is straight down because we want to see the dynamics of battle. And in fact, seeing the formation of one side versus another approach each other on the battlefield is exactly what this view is all about. And for the player, this is an advantage to see the battle unfold from the top like this. See the result of your formation, you see how the opponent has formed their battle, their army in battle. The other view that's important for a player to see is this, which is literally cards. You're across the table from somebody and you are playing cards. So the idea that you can inspect your cards that are in your hand and fanned out in front of you like cards are is part of this other view that we find important in our game. And this was a best guess. And we proceed from there with this guess. This game prototype that we're developing, because the game really will not look like this, in terms of the colors, in terms of the artwork, there's just nothing here that is valuable. It is all mechanics dressed up with the utilitarian purpose of getting the mechanics done so that we can work on the gameplay. Then we'll make it look pretty later and make it sound pretty later, and we'll put things on it later that are relatively known and straightforward. What is not known or straightforward is exactly how the gameplay of this game will work. We have some idea. And with that idea, with that best guess, with that hypothesis, we go forward. So I am using this project as a means to talk about design and talk about development and how they work together. We haven't gotten to things like the artwork of development yet, but we certainly have gotten to the code. That's really all that's been going on, is the code of the development of this game, so that we can see the implementation of rules. Like, while you are in battle, you can be reminded of the orders you gave. In this case, my cards are all going to attack the one with the most power. And you can see the orders of the opponent. All things being equal, if there's multiple cards to target, they will target, you can't see it behind my avatar, but it says least defense. So as they go forward in battle and as they meet in battle, they will battle. Roar. And there's a couple of exchanges of blows before the battle continues. And this includes advancing cards that join in battle as well. So now there's more than one card, and now these marching orders make a little more sense. All things being equal, this opponent's time pony card, and yeah, these are silly names. All things being equal, they will attack the one with the least defense, which is going to be the Doom Garden. And that's still true, so they'll all attack the Doom Garden. Now, there are many rules in the system that we're making for this card battle game, and a lot of them are in place, which is great. 2 months in, we're coming up on 2 months pretty soon. This is how much we've gotten done from scratch to this, which is not bad. I hasten to add that we're also watching me play around with a different way of developing a game, which is sometimes called finding the fun. Finding the fun to me sounds absolutely ridiculous, because what it implies is that I will build a bunch of stuff and then we will play around with it and see what works best. I understand the concept. I can understand some of the advantages to it, but one key disadvantage is the amount of time spent doing things that you might not actually use. It's called wasted effort. I would never do this, but because I am doing this as a hobby and it's for fun, and it might be hilarious to watch somebody crash and burn in a process that is doomed from the start. I'll go ahead and do it. Oh, I did not mean to mirror the formation so much, but I did. And I'm going to pick least health. My thought is my cards will take out the cards, opponent cards quicker if I do that. Anyway, so we'll see how this works out. I am building all the mechanics, and we are planning on, once I guess a couple more big pieces are in place, we would be able to call the game prototype complete, where we can test variations on rules. And the variations on the rules will help us understand which of these rules would make a more balanced game, a more tactical game, a more fun game. Finding the fun. Fine, whatever. We'll go for it. But there are a couple of rules that are not yet in place, and one of them includes like the ability to attack all the way across the battlefield like that. This is part of a return to the battle mechanics, which are mostly in place. There are some key aspects that were related to the formation and other stuff that only recently got in place. And I want to have those other things in place first. So we got this ability to place cards recently, and that allows us to have a custom formation, testing things like how a card in battle will first meet another one in battle and join the battle that way. after they are free from engaging with that one, they can attack a neighboring lane and join in battle with their neighbor. So if this card at the top defeats the other card on the top and their opponent, they can then be free to join the battle with this next card in the middle. That's the idea. But attacking all the way across the battlefield, no, that's not meant to happen. This will, if that were to happen, this would sort of negate the meaning of making these formations at all. The formations right now, because of this ability to attack all the way across the battlefield, only determine when cards will join battle. But once they're in battle, it's as if everyone can attack everyone else, and so it's rather meaningless to have the formation. By contrast, with 3 cards across, 5 cards across, more complex battles can emerge if, for example, there is a card sort of stranded for a turn on its own and has to rejoin the battle by collapsing lanes together so that it can join in battle with its neighbor who was 1 lane away, for example. This is not really possible to test until we have these things in place. So I'm realizing now how easy it is to see through that. Yeah, I do want to have, well, I'm going to redo the card visuals anyway, but that's just annoying. I'll just deal with it for now. When we are dealing with a game prototype, the concern is mostly how the rules are implemented. I'm looking to make sure the mechanics actually work. That's it. The way it looks, I don't care. So I will leave the rest till later. So among things like that, shooting across a lane, this would just be not allowed. We would wait until a lane is clear and then we could collapse it. So instead of 4 lanes, we would have 3, etc. And I think that's reasonable. The most recent mechanics we were working on were to finish up the view from across the table. As you look across the table and you look through the cards and place your cards on the table, there's 1 or 2 small user interface features that we want to see. If I look across and I want to place my cards, I want to have the freedom to look at the cards. I want to have the freedom to decide a card should go on the table. And if I change my mind, I want to be able to pick it up. And right now I cannot. So we were working on that last time. I got some progress to determine exactly which card this is that I'm clicking on right now, which is a key to undoing it. And that was nice. It is going to take a little bit of, as I mentioned last time, archaeology, because I made some code to do this mechanic of inspecting the cards and having the cards lift up. I did this a long time ago, weeks ago. And in that time, I've moved on to other things, so I have to reacquaint myself to how these are terrible cards. These are all terrible. I have to reacquaint myself to how this works because I need to use this mechanic to implement this next one. And, it could be that I need to pull apart the old mechanic to get the new one to work. Okay. So there's a little bit of archaeology, there's a little bit of study of the previous mechanic to make this work well. I'm absolutely going to what is called refactor the entire game, because while the mechanics would work and they would suffice to allow us to play with changes to rules to find the fun, okay, sure. I have also learned exactly how to make this more efficient. This is one of the few advantages to this finding the fun method. Okay, fine. I will take advantage of that and absolutely refactor all of this not changing the functionality, just changing how efficient it is, how elegant it is, how simple it is. Because right now it's kind of a rat's nest, and that's understandable. In the rush to get the mechanics to work, it's a little messy. Well, there is one other thing I could do, and that is this thing I've been complaining about this game and for the last several sessions, which is the cards. They're terrible. Sometimes they're great, and sometimes they're terrible. This is because there's always a 10 in one stat. That's what the color coding comes from. But then the other 4 stats are randomized between 1 and 9, and as you can imagine, sometimes that is totally overpowered, and sometimes it's just garbage. And I would think that's actually something we should deal with now. So let's deal with that now. My plan is that that's a smaller, easier thing to do. It is something that's just becoming apparent. I can't ignore it and continue valid testing for very much longer. To have cards that you would never pick in battle is a type of imbalance, in the same way that you would have completely overpowered cards you would always pick. That's also imbalanced. Ooh, what's this? Did I do something while I was testing that caused an unusual error? Because if I'm doing it while I'm testing, I don't care. It is referencing a card. Well, when it's rare like this, it means it's quite possible it's due to the fact that I am playing in the engine and causing things to happen out of order, for example. I thought I had cleaned up a lot of this, but... Oh, that's interesting. There are no player 1 cards. Oh, really? I see 2 right here. What does it think there should be on the play? Yeah, these cards should be in play, and they weren't. How awful. I have a strong feeling I caused some problem while I was demonstrating it. I need to be on the lookout for this happening again, however. Now, hold on. They should not be in battle. They're dead. Tactical Squid and Flash Monkey. Oh, no, they're still in play. Yeah, they should be right here, actually. So I'm just inspecting the state of the game while it's paused like this, because I can. Yeah, that looks like that's going to be Flash Monkey and Tactical Squid. I know those are speed and defense cards, respectively. So, interesting. Yep, that's what that is. But my battle code does not see it as in play at all. It never got there. So there's no cards on player 1's side right now, which is causing the error. I haven't seen that one before. Well, that's not what I was planning on doing, darn it. And while debugging as I go is a best practice, of course, I need to ignore it because fixing a problem that is not consistently reproducible, it's not just hard. it's a problem when you can't reproduce the problem. Well, anyway, that's a distraction. What I wanted to do instead was play with the cards themselves. Here's what I mean. That distribution of the stats that is random and imbalanced, sometimes far too weak and sometimes far too powerful, comes from the fact that this main script that handles most of the game, including the battles, that's where the error came from just now, constructs a master deck. Now, we never see this deck of cards. We never see the draw pile either, actually, but it is the case that a deck has to be built first. Imagine, going to the card making factory and building a deck of cards first, and then you can play with them. Yes, that's what's up. So I need to actually make a card deck. And so this script is in charge of constructing the cards to begin with. So our main script calls this one to say, yeah, give us a initial deck of cards. And we are meant to make 50 cards. So it calls this script. And it's always been known that this is just temporary because I want to be able to test. And so we just made silly names and then started assigning some values. I knew early on that there would be 5 stats that that give meaning to each card. So it began to make some sense as a first guess to make each card have one really strong stat. So Rocket Dragon has a 10 in power. Shadow Imp has a 10 in defense. And so every 5 cards has a 10. This made it easy for me to just organize up 50 silly names, because these are just silly names of creatures and or forces you might bring into battle. Fantasy, sure, but... So at the end of this, I've created 50 cards, 0 to 49. I've named them, and I've given them a 10 somewhere. The rest are zeros. This code right here catches those zeros and does something with them. Right now, it just randomizes them, and that's what I want to fix. This is garbage. I've now run out of patience with this temporary stat initialization method. In fact, I'm just going to put it here on ice. Tell the code to please ignore all of that. I'm going to do something else. Instead, I want to know where the 10 is, and I want to shuffle the other 4. If there's a 10 in speed, I want power, defense, health, and luck to now have a shuffle of a balanced set of stats. Been talking about this on stream for a little while, so let's talk about this balanced shuffle stats. The idea is this, and I do subscribe to this best practice as well, writing notes in code comments first. Find the 10. We want to then take a balanced distribution of stat values shuffle them among the other 4. Keyword being shuffle. We actually have a shuffle routine. I can kind of ignore the 10 for right now, because what I'm going to do is take 4 values, have an even distribution of them, and then shuffle, ignoring the 10. So I'm going to shuffle among 4. That's actually not too hard. This is literally an array of integers, the integer value of the stat, and I will shuffle that array of 4 integers. That's not hard at all. I mean, there's a pattern. We'll get there. Balanced distribution of stat values, what does that mean? Well, let's say I would prefer the 10 to be coupled with something that is kind of strong, just not that strong, like 9. And then I need to get it down pretty low, so I kind of want to just go down by 2s. That sounds decent because I'll end up at 3. That sounded okay for a while I was thinking about it out loud on stream. And then I thought about, well, what if you had a random chance that that would be reduced by 1, so it would be 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Well, I'm also thinking, what if there was a chance that could be reduced even further, such that this is a relatively weak card, but you had also the chance that it was a relatively high card. So in other words, we're sort of not departing entirely from this possibility that you have garbage cards or overpowered cards, not entirely, but we're mitigating this problem by saying I would still like there to be a chance, right? This is still very far away from strictly authoring each card to have very specific values. This could easily be set up that way. But I really don't feel strong about deciding the values of cards in an authored way at this stage because the mechanics of the game are not yet decided. So I still need a testing set of cards, but I just can't handle them being completely out of balance at this point because that's throwing off some of my testing. Not testing for the mechanics, but it will absolutely throw off the testing about subtle differences in rule changes that give rise to tactical balance and things. That balance issue will become a problem. So while it's okay to have a little bit of chance here, I don't mind that right now. This could change. I think a distribution of stats like this is far more balanced. So let's put it this way. What we're really looking at is a single number. Or if I guess you could look at it this way, just a single number, 1, 2, or 3. And then moving up by 2s for the other 3, so that you have 4 stats that you can shuffle that will complement the 10 in a way that is balanced. That's what I'm thinking about. So I need a random number. Let's just make a random number, put this together. It will be between 1 and 3, but funny thing about that function, it's got an exclusive maximum value, meaning 4 will never actually be reached. It will actually be 1, 2, or 3. So that's this. And I don't need much more than the ability to say I need to shuffle an array of integers. I got 4 of them. These 4. Okay, Visual Studio wants to start inserting code, and I think it's right a lot of the time, which is fantastic, and it's wrong sometimes, and it completely gets in the way. Very frustrating. Like that. Like, I know, I'm not asking for that, and you're getting in my way. All right. It's called IntelliSense, is the plugin that allows Visual Studio to do this. Oh, this I is already being used. That's what's complaining about. So I will use another value or another name for this variable. Use n. All right. To start with, these numbers are going to be that. And they're going to count up. I don't like using all these extra variables, but it does not matter. I'm overly concerned with efficiency. It's just not necessary. I'm absolutely just prototyping. Who cares? But I'm going to go through each of these new slots in an array of 4 integers, and I'm going to start with the number that I got, this random number. And as it counts up, I will use that. And I could be really fancy and do this, or this, I should say, which makes it equal to count and then adds 2. That's so fancy. But not only is it a bit confusing, but it's unnecessary. I don't need to save the space of having one line of code combined. I'm sorry, no. By the way, this is all compiled, so who cares? So grab a number between 1 and 3. 4 will never be reached. So it'll be this. And then create 4 integers. And start with that number and go up through all the numbers and assign that value, 1, 2, or 3, and then add 2. So it'll be 2 more, and keep doing it through all of them. So I have my initial array with those numbers. Okay. First thing I should do is shuffle these. I will use count again. I'm overly concerned with efficiency, but I'm going to need to count again, but I'll do that in a second. I'm going to use that when I have a card to fill in. I'm going to just go through them one by one in order, and I'm going to ignore the 10. As I do so, I'm going to probably count up. Yeah, I'll do that in a second. That's really just ignoring the 10. Just so I need to shuffle because I have these numbers, but they are literally in order. They say 1, 3, 5, 7, or 2, 4, 6, 8, or they say 3, 5, 7, 9. Right now, that's already happening. I should test that, but I'm just going to move forward. I need to shuffle at this point. So among the 4 integers that I have, they are currently in order. I need to make a temporary array. And you know what? It's going to equal this to begin with. At the end of it, I will have shuffled it and I will put it right back. But I need to have both because I need to refer to this original array while I fill in this temporary array. Okay. Pay no attention to the garbage that IntelliSense inserted in my code. Oh, I'm already using temp. Okay. Cool. So to shuffle, I do want a temporary array. I am going to use a count again, so I'm just going to use the same one. I also need a new random number, which is not the stat value anymore. Now it's actually an index of these 4. So it's going to look a lot like this. It will. In fact, I'm going to use it again because, yes, but not to be confused. This is setting an initial 1, 2, or 3. And now what I'm going to use this for is finding a random among these distribution of numbers, either 9 to 3, 8 to 2, or 7 to 1. Among these, there's an index, 0, 1, 2, 3. And I need to select these randomly as I shuffle one by one, rather than, range between 1 and 4, where 4 is never going to be reached. I want 0 and 4 because I actually need 4 values. Not to be confused, but computers love to start counting at 0. Did I mention I like coffee? So I will use this, but I will continue to use it as long as I need to. I'm going to shuffle, and this means I'm going to fill in a temporary array with one of these 4 numbers, and then I'll move on and fill it in with one of these 4 numbers. But if I've already used that number, I need to continue picking random numbers until I picked the unique one that I haven't chosen yet. Haven't chosen yet. Do this as long as I haven't chosen it yet. This is a case where I do want to ensure that as I go up through the temporary array, I am going to, whoops. Oh, I'm going up through the array. Right. Oh, Visual Studio, what are you doing? No, seriously, stop it. It's because there's already something that it's thinking is a problem, and it's keeping IntelliSense from working properly. And I can't tell you how slow that makes this process when I need to stop and correct this. Okay, I know it's 4. I don't need to do anything anything fancy. Okay, within this, going up through the array and filling in temporary, I need to pick a new number. Okay, now as long as I need to know if this is already found. What are you doing? Just stop it. I missed the variable type, and so it just makes it difficult. I would like to just type, in other words. Okay. While it's how do I say this? I'm looking to see if this random number that I've picked has already been found. There is an array. It is in order right now. It's actually reversing this order. I really just need to shuffle this. It's not rand. It's not what I want. I want this. I am picking from this array based on that index, and so I'm picking a random number to get that index, not this initial distribution. That was something else. That was done up here, but let's ignore that because now what this is for is to pick one of these four numbers. That's what that is. So to do that, I'm actually indexing something that is already in this stat array. That's this. So this goes here. Yes. It's going to be filling in the temporary array and counting up. That's true. So this is being filled in. Okay, I want that to happen as long as this was not found. What are you doing, Visual Studio? It's been complaining about me not filling this in the whole time. And now that I'm trying to fix it, it is absolutely in my way. Wow, that's frustrating. Okay, and this count 0 does not belong here at all. Is that all I want? That might be all I want. Yeah. See, I've filled in the array, and now I'm doing this operation, taking a temporary array to fill this temporary array with elements from the original array so I can reset it. That's what this last step does. So go through each in temporary array. That's what this 4 represents, each in the temporary array. But pick from the stat array that I have already set up. It's ordered. I'm going to shuffle. So random, pick. And as long as it's not found, which means I actually need to do a search. Let's search through all of the cards that have been picked so far. In other words, searching through temp array, and we're going to say if any of those elements equals what is here, that means that has already been assigned, and it is, in fact, found. It's a little inefficient. And there's another problem. By default, these have zeros in them. Or no, that's not true. They have... This is garbage. I said let's just make them equal to this stat array to start with, but that's terrible. Reason being, I'm going to look for this condition and make sure that it hasn't been placed yet. Well, unless it's... Well, 0 actually works. Ah, nice. I typically go in and initialize this array to like -1 or something that's very clearly never going to happen. But it's already never going to happen because if it's 0, these numbers have been filled with something already. It can't be 0. So I'm good, actually. Okay, clean array with all zeros. This array has some numbers between 1 and 9. Pick a random index of that. Oh, this is where I want while. Yep, actually. go through each one because I'm filling in this. And while it's not already found in the array, yes, okay. And set that to false beforehand, yes, so that I can do this again, but I can't. I'm going one by one. So I really need to do all of this while as well. This is wrong. Mm-hmm. But this, because we're going to start at 0. See, while I fill in each one of the elements in the temporary array, which is what I'm doing here, starting with a blank one, going through each one and filling it in. That's why it's n. While I'm doing that, yeah, this is a little silly. I don't need count at all, do I? But I'm trying to find a condition that I want to continue doing it. Yeah, this is not right. This is not right. But I do want to find a random number and then check that if it has been already placed. And so this is correct. I'm not sure I need count anymore. It could be that I don't need n, actually. If this weren't here at all, and I were just using count, I would say, well, 0 is less than 4, and so it's going to go through, pick a random number, check to see if it's there. If it's not there, fill it and add 1. This would be count. And then its count is still less than 4, and so it keeps going. But if it is found, then the count is not increased, and so it happens again. Yeah. Guaranteed to be less than 4 to start with. Guaranteed eventually to increment, so it is 4, which means this is false, and it continues on. Temporary has been filled based on count. Starts at 0 and goes up. And so make a temporary array. It is blank, start at 0, and as long as that count is less than 4 and not equal to 4, excuse me. Okay. Start at 0, and as long as that count is less than 4, continue. Only count up if it is not found and you have found, you are using a random one of these distribution. Put it in a temporary array. At the end, you will reset the original to that. Okay, so this is shuffling. I do want to confirm that this works. but I'm going to be doing it 50 times for all the cards, so I'm going to wing it. It's not the best way to go, but and I didn't need to use T. I could have used N. Pardon me for being how should I say, OCD. Okay, cool. So I do want. Okay. Oh, but pardon me. I can't tell if this stream is actually working now. Hold on. I swear, these technical issues are just driving me insane because they have nothing to do with the work we're doing. Okay, I think it's okay. So dumb. I literally just want to turn on streaming and continue working, and that, or turn on streaming and play Valorant, and none of that is easy as it sounds. Cool. So now if I have a distribution that is balanced and now it is shuffled, I need to place them into our stats, ignoring whatever 10 I find. Good question. That replaces this in a way. I'm still looking for the zeros, excuse me. But instead of picking a random number, I will just take the next. Yes. So this function, as you can see, I'm setting 10s on all these cards and setting their name. This is itself happening over the course of all the cards, in this case 50. So this is already going through each card. That's why each one can be given a single name. And stats that include a 10 plus a bunch of zeros. So at this point, I can count on that and use it. It's saying temp is this. This is the same thing I did here, but I am going to, actually, it's going to look a lot like this. Can I use that? Be nice. But instead of saying yeah, I think my friend count is going to be right back in play here. And if it is equal to 0, then it is not a 10. Simple enough. And so I can just grab the first of these shuffled other 4 stats. It is not the 10, and so do that, please. But wait, I'm not done because I also need to increment count like this. So if it was a 10, this got skipped. If not, it's going to increment count and take the next one. So I think that's good. I'm looking for an efficient way to replace all this. Visual Studio is going to get very angry at me. It's gonna start complaining immediately as I place this. And I don't care. I'm just trying to get it done. All right. So for each of these 5 stats, look and make sure it is not a 10. In this case, there is only one other option. It will be a 0. If it is a 10, this will be ignored. If not, it's going to go through my stat array that is balanced and shuffled. I'm questioning that at the same time that I'm looking over the code. Why is that highlighted differently? That's weird. Okay, so this got replaced with all of this, and we are going to ignore the 10. I really only use this temporary array for that one part. You know, once this happens, I don't need it anymore. I guess I could try and be efficient and not have two arrays, but who cares? I think this is better. I think this is better. Really can't get around it now. I just have to test. And this test in particular can be done all in the engine. Right. This has to do with code that I was writing last. Code that I don't need. You know? I know. I know. What garbage, right? Total garbage. But I'm literally just trying to quash this warning here. Because I prefer to have a clean console so that I can see actual problems and not be distracted by garbage. So, where are we at? This script holds cards. While it is not the master deck, we see a shuffled deck here in the draw pile. When I hit play, that function is run, and we have 50 cards. And I can just straight up look at all the cards right here. So I will. Innocent Wish has a 10 in luck. And then it has an even distribution going from 8 to 2. Rock King has a 10 in health and has an even distribution between 7 and 1. Flying Shark has a 10 in speed and an even distribution between 8 and 2. Cougar Gun has a 10 in power and an even distribution between 7 and 1. Electric Dog has a 10 in speed and an even distribution between 9 and 3. This looks like it worked. It's shuffled and it's balanced. Now I want to immediately play. Because I would typically come to this stage and look at my cards and be like, oh, some of these are garbage. Well, now they aren't. They are balanced. And they have positives and negatives. And while some of them actually have a better distribution, between 9 and 3 is better. It's better. Now I'm thinking about this. It's better than 8 and 2. It's better than 7 and 1. And so there's still technically some cards that are more higher powered than others. I'm not really sure what to do about that. Did I just take away enough variation from the card's strength to make it too balanced? And yes, there is such a thing. Well, it's going to take more testing than I'm going to spend time with now. I just wanted to get the mechanic to work. You should make for longer battles and matches that are not so one-sided, or I should say rounds that aren't so one-sided. All the rest of the mechanics in the battle work exactly the same. I literally just changed these numbers. So there are going to be some that are terrible. And this is not a terrible card, but it is on the low end, right? There might be a reason to want to use this for the luck alone. That was the thought. It's definitely better than having absolute ones and twos, which I've totally seen. That's a good question. The thought was, could I get a new distribution of cards to be more balanced, because instead of having a chance that cards are, garbage or overpowered, because that's what this did. This completely made for imbalanced. It almost guaranteed over imbalanced decks of cards. This guarantees a more distributed balance of cards with a little bit of variation. So some are slightly more powered than others, but you won't have garbage cards. There will be, at minimum, a 5 and a 7 and a 10. And even the really powerful ones will have a 3 somewhere. So in general, they're pretty powerful, which makes some sense because they're supposed to be strong forces going against each other in battle. I just don't know if I took away so much of the variation that it causes difficulty. I mean, are they all the same now, right? The extreme of this would be all the cards are tens. That would There wouldn't be enough variation to have a difference. Is this that case? I don't know. It's a step towards improvement, which is also a design tenet in the process. And we are following this. This is so silly. Uh, right. Um, so I'll come back to this one. This is literally the problem of picking up a card that you've already placed on the table. But that's already done. I mean, that I will do later. It's not already done. It's the opposite of already done. It's probably next to do. Okay. Uh, so while some of these have an awful stat of 1, I guess another way to do it would be to balance this. If you have a 1, you also have a 9. Every card has a 5. Oof, wow, I could actually balance it like that, couldn't I? Well, in the same way that I started out with the random numbers because it was fast and easy, and then slowly decided on a better course of action, and that's what we just implemented, I will do the same here. I may also say, yeah, if you have a 1, you should also have a 9. That would be further balancing it, right? While the stats aren't all 10s, some stats are going to be awful. and every stat matters in battle in its own way. This is where the tactics of the player can come from understanding the meaning of these stats on this card. If I'd rather have a strong defense and good power and enough health to last for a while, then I might go ahead and do this. Simply because those are the stats that matter for what I want to do. I'm kind of not sure about the utility of this yet, right? But let's just pretend I have a strategy for my cards in battle, and so I'm going to implement these tactics. First of all, have a card that I expect to die soon, but it will do a heck of a lot of damage, and it won't take as much damage right away because of such strong defense. The rest of the stats are throwaway. I just need it to have a strong defense. And so I'm going to put it first so it can take out some other cards early. That's my strategy. I'm also going to implement the tactic of using a card with high speed so that it goes first, has enough health to last, and will deal some damage because the power is relatively strong. At the end, I also want cards to last, so the defense and the health is there, but it's the luck that I'm hoping is going to win me out here. I have enough luck here that I might get a luck win based on whatever cards are left over. By thinking about the cards, the stats, the card selection, and now the formation as well, I'm thinking, and the marching orders, in fact, all of these are coming together into a more complex set of tactics following a strategy the player might want to do. This is, I think, clearly illustrating why, although this is a simple game, it has enough variation in the rules potentially to matter a lot for an emergent gameplay of tactical battle card game. So, sort of proves out the point that this is a good one to try this finding the fun methodology. So I was able to survive a little bit. I have a lot of defense and some health, but I've already taken a lot of damage already, I can tell. Ooh, and they had a luck win. So my strategy so far is failing because I wasn't able to survive. The hope was to take out a card early. Oh, well, it kind of worked. I damaged that one early, and that did allow for it to be taken out. So maybe that tactic did work, right? One step further from providing a lot of tactics and a menu of tactics that players can choose from for their strategy is then looking to make sure that there's no dominant strategy. This is way down the road. I wouldn't know where to start with that while the mechanics are not in place yet. So I'm going to play with different rule changes once I have all the mechanics in place, and we're not exactly there yet. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, being able to attack across several lanes is a problem that is fixed from a feature that has not been developed yet. It's a very important feature that was not able to even be worked on until we got this formation, and we just got this in recently. So one step at a time, but we are getting super close to the ability of seeing some of these other mechanics, the last mechanics in the gameplay prototype, able to be built, which will allow us to finally test a series of tests that provide the ability to see the difference between a rule change, a series of tests to test a series of rule changes. Eventually, settling on a combination of rules that work best for this game. Yeah, see now this process of looking through my cards is now much more thoughtful. I'm already seeing the advantage of the change we made today because I am now slowing down and having to think about the ramifications of these selections. So I didn't change my marching orders. And I didn't really think about I can see now skill. I mean, I made this game and I still have some skills that I can already see and need to be built up in my gameplay um, because I forgot the formation marching orders. I set my formation, didn't think about their formation. That's a skill. I didn't set my marching orders. They set theirs. That's a skill. Um, I mean, theirs are just random, but the point being, I can already seed some depth in gameplay for each player to learn how to play better. Um, and that comes from some of the mechanics we have already implemented. There's a lot of 1 through 7s, actually. See, this is a 1 through 7. So is so is that, and so is that. So I have 3 cards that are actually on the low end, and just 1 that is on the high end. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that up front just because I'm lazy. I'm really just now getting a survey of what it's like to play with these cards now that we made that rule change. What do I want? Power or defense or health? I'm gonna go for health. But the way they are formed matters, and again, I forgot my marching orders. We're both going for most luck. Formations themselves changed the shape of how battles unfold, as I definitely expect this prevention of attacking across the battlefield. That will also change the shape of these battles dramatically. I know it. I just haven't been able to see it yet because we haven't implemented it yet. So all these tests are really unable to test the game yet because the fullness of these mechanics working together is just not in place. I just can't test it yet. So that I can't rely on the results I'm getting. I'm just getting a sense of bits and pieces of the gameplay. For example, how this feels to like place cards and stuff. That's, you know, that's the only part. There's only some parts that I can actually see for real. Okay, let me quickly try and win, and we'll just drop this stream. We'll call it done. The idea being, we got something done today, which was a small mechanics change to how the cards are created so that there are no dominant cards with a bunch of 9s in it or weak cards with a bunch of 1s. They're all distributed with some variation, just less variation, more distribution, which is fair and means that when you have a selection of 5 cards to choose from, it's harder to choose which ones you should play. That's great. That's actually a good thing. There's a really stupid, simple AI handling the opponent right now, and I sort of inadvertently nerfed their ability to choose which cards to play. Because all things being equal, they will just pick the generally stronger cards. And we balanced them out quite a bit. So their AI was effectively made to pick out the dumb cards and not use them. Well, now none of them are really that dumb. So it still kind of works. It's just, I guess, less effective is the way to say it. All right. We did a small code stream to fix a very small issue with a change to the mechanic of how the cards are initially created. They are, in effect, randomized in a small way, but distributed better now. So we've seen this problem cause issues as we've been testing and playing other mechanics. And so it was a long time coming, but I think that's one step better and not necessarily done at all. We are free to continue to evaluate that and continue to come up with reasons why it should be changed and made better. And in that way, we have followed the process that the design and development process, especially coding, which is to test as you go, do one step at a time. I conveniently sidestepped a difficult problem that I was working on previously by working on this simpler issue and got that done, so that we could have a short stream and it could be fun. I may stream again later. I doubt I'm going to stream Valorant. Last several times I've tried to stream Valorant, I just could not get a decent ping to play properly, so I won't. That's simple as that. All right, now I'm gonna go. Have fun. Take care. Be good.